Hello and welcome to Matchday 7 of Championship Predictions from the On Sport Podcast. I'm Craig Savage. Next to me, as always, is Mr. Daniel Cody. Let's have a quick recap of Matchday 6. And it was a lot of perfect scores, but all for me, 3 perfect scores in total. Birmingham versus Derby in the Friday night game, Stoke v Huddersfield, and Swansea versus Hull. It was a very good weekend for me. 13 points to Daniel Cody, 6. So let's get on with Matchday 7. It's midweek edition. It's starting for Tuesday night. It is Blackburn Rovers versus Hull City. Daniel Cody, Blackburn Rovers 2-0 up and blew it to Luton Town.
Yeah, it was just a bizarre game, wasn't it? I'm not one that often gets into officiating performances. I think the general consensus is that Darragh Lenihan should have had a red card very early on. I think most Blackburn fans, in fairness to them, have admitted it, and only really Tony Mowbray's the only man in denial. A good comeback from Luton we'll talk about later on. Blackburn are always going to be a threat going forward. They've got good attacking talent. They're not quite as secure at the back, and I think that showed late on. They didn't manage the game hugely well, and Luton did apply a lot of pressure towards the end. However, Blackburn overall still probably fairly happy with their start to the season. Interesting note on that game, referee going off with cramp. Don't think I've ever seen that before, but there you go. Hull City, to be fair, 2 very good 0-0 draws, you'd argue, in the last 2 games, and they needed to shore things up after a poor few games defensively. My problem is, Craig, that away from home, I can't see Hull winning this game. I know their only win's been on the road this season, but I think Blackburn will have too much. Hull will start to struggle more as these games come with midweeks and we have 3 games in a week. I think that's where Hull struggle a bit more. So Blackburn to edge it, but they'll concede 2-1.
Hull haven't won since the opening day. I think we haven't realised. Blackburn, on the other hand, obviously they took their chances in the first half, and then I feel like they kind of obviously Luton grew back into the game. We'll get into Luton later on, but had a chance to wrap the game up in the last 96th minute. Didn't do that. The rest it should have been a red card. That probably would have changed the game anyway. But I don't see much in this Blackburn side. I really don't, and I think that stems with Mowbray. I think he was a bit negative at 2-0. Changed the formation at the back. And it kind of worked against their favour, made Luton press a little bit more, and it worked for them. Hull, on the other hand, obviously, they haven't won since the opening day. It's going to be a bit of a worry, but they stopped the rot with losing games. Obviously, 2 draws the last couple of games. So I'm going to think it's going to be a 3rd consecutive draw, and I'm going to start with Championship's favourite scoreline, as always, of 1-1. Right, up next, at Bloomfield Road, it is Blackpool versus Huddersfield Town. A fantastic 1-0 victory against pretty much the favourites, Fulham.
Well, I think it might have been this very game that we made the comment in Thursday's predictions and said, but the Championship does funny things and gives us a score that makes us look stupid. I think it was this very game, and it did just that. Blackpool, resilient defensively. Let's be fair, Fulham had the better of the game overall. I think Blackpool, if I'm right, scored with their only shot on target. They had less than 30% of the ball, but we've seen in the Championship, possession means very little, if not nothing. So a fantastic result for them. But in truth, this game's more important. It's games against teams that are going to probably be in the bottom half this season, where you've got to stop your rivals getting 3 points. Huddersfield, it sort of went as we expected. They fell back to normality against Stoke, but they did put up a decent fight. Unfortunate to see former Luton man Matty Pearson win Stoke the game, but I think this is going to be a very tough game. Blackpool will find it harder against a Huddersfield side that will sit back a bit more defensively on the road. I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline because I didn't do it enough at the weekend.
This is a tough game, actually. I think it's probably a game that Blackpool really want. Obviously, I know Huddersfield had a very good start, but obviously now that momentum is back in their favour. They have looked pretty good at home, Blackpool. Obviously, a couple of defeats to start with, tight games as well. So I think home form, as we said, for like Peterborough and for Hull, especially coming back to the Championship, they're the games you need to pick up points. Do I see them picking up points in this game? No, I don't. I think Huddersfield started well against Stoke, and it fell away for them. So I think Huddersfield will win this game. I'm going to go for 2-1 to the Terriers. Up next, it is Bournemouth versus Queen's Park Rangers. QPR, what a comeback from them. You did say this is probably a game of the day, and you were right.
Yeah, I mean, it's about the only thing I got right, wasn't it, at the weekend? But at least I did. And Andre Gray made an instant impact, getting his goal on debut. So a brilliant game. I think we all knew at the start of the season, if QPR were going to have an Achilles heel, it was going to be defensively. And the fact they focused almost exclusively on signing attackers at the end of the window would suggest that's going to be the case. Bournemouth, though, I've got to say credit to them. They came straight back with what I would say is probably one of the most complete Championship performances of the season so far. They made a very good Barnsley side look very poor. They basically played them off the park. Young players with attacking talent, flying fullbacks, and learned their lessons from Blackpool. So brilliant from Bournemouth. And I think this will be one of QPR's toughest away days. I still think it'll be close. I'm going to go thriller again. 3-2.
To who?
Bournemouth.
Oh.
Apologies, that would have been helpful, wouldn't it?
I'll go 3-2. Yes. Well, I think there'll be goals in this game as well, but I'm not going to go 3-2. I'm going to go for a Desmond 2-2. I think this probably would be the game of the midweek, to be honest. And I think this is the TV game as well on Sky. So I think they picked the right choice. But I'm going to go for 2-2. Both teams looking very good on the attack. Up next, Bramall Lane, Sheffield United versus Preston North End. And finally, Sheffield United have turned up in the Championship.
Yes, we said we thought this would be the day, albeit we have said that before this season, and it very much was. Morgan Gibbs-White was phenomenal. And the only thing I would say from a Sheffield United point of view is still not a lot of goals from the big money strikers. Obviously, McBurney and Brewster both left on the bench for that one. And Peterborough at home is probably one of the games you've got to win this season because Peterborough on the road aren't going to offer much. I am really concerned that they still conceded 2 goals because, again, I don't think Posh will score 2 goals away at many teams this year. But Preston are another side I've not been impressed with this year. I think we said we didn't have a particularly high opinion so far this year of them or Bristol City, and they played that out at the weekend. So Sheffield United, for me, these are the sorts of games where they can find form. They got Derby in the Cup. They got what now looks like a decent point at Luton, a big win against Peterborough. They're going to win again, and I'm going to stick with my weekend score, thinking it'll be a bit calmer. So 3-1 Sheffield United.
I'm going to go 2-1 Sheffield United. As you said, I think they're bound to concede a goal. They do make the very sloppy mistake at the back, gift them other teams' goals. Obviously, all right, they kept a clean sheet against Luton, but they gifted them a goal there. So, they gifted Peterborough both goals, to be honest. It was pretty sloppy. It didn't really need that. It's only negative from their performance, really. Preston, on the other hand, 0-0, nothing. They're just flat out boring for me at the moment. Nothing spectacular. But I think Sheffield United will win again, to be honest. I'm going to go 2-1 to them. Right, up next, it is Reading versus Peterborough United, 2 of the bottom 3 so far in the Championship this season. Reading, leakiest defence in the Championship since 2004. Peterborough, away from home, absolutely hopeless. This has got 6-6, hasn't it?
Well, it has, Craig, and I've decided to ignore every stat that I'm about to reel off and go for a hunch because if you're going to look stupid, you might as well do it in style, mightn't you? So, as you mentioned, Reading have conceded the most goals at home so far this season, 7 goals. Nobody else has done more than 5. Peterborough, the only side to be in double figures for goals conceded away from home. I'm going 1-0 Reading. I think this is going to be... Do you know why? Because I think both sides are going to see this as their first real opportunity in a few games to win. And I think both are going to set out a bit more cautiously to start with. And I think we're going to see... It's one of those, and we had it a few times last season. I think we'll see the complete opposite game to what we expect. So I'm going 1-0 Reading, and I just hope I don't look like an idiot.
Well, I was actually going to go 1-0 Reading myself because I think there's more pressure on Reading to get something on this. I think the fans are slowly starting to turn on Pavlovic in charge. Peterborough, obviously, Ferguson's going to stay there anyway. I don't see him getting the sack regardless, but they do need to pick up points, especially away from home. You said 1-0. You took the score right away from me. I'm going to go Reading are very comfortable conceding the goal. I'm going to go 1-1. I don't see much in this side. I'm going to have to sit on the fence on this one. Right, up next, Hawthorns. It is West Bromwich Albion versus Derby County. West Brom surprising draw against Millwall.
Yeah, not just the result. The performance wasn't hugely great either. Millwall had as many good chances, if not slightly more, to win the game. And West Brom didn't really take advantage. And I guess you could have seen it coming with the set-piece threat and the like. My concern is with Derby that although they didn't have a good game against Birmingham, they kept the ball pretty well, not doing a huge amount with it, but they've got good, experienced defenders. And thinking about the way West Brom have been effective this year, I think they could hold them down to a lower score than I expect. But again, Derby, a tiny squad. They're now playing 3 games a week. Surely it's going to catch up with them at some point. Maybe a couple of the younger lads up front to nick a goal, but I'm going to play safe. I'm going to go for 1 or 2-0 to West Brom. 2-0 to West Brom. I think Derby will tire later on.
My worry for Derby is, will they get bullied on the long throws? Because I think Mill dealt with it pretty well, to be honest. And obviously West Brom missed a penalty. That doesn't help as well. So I think West Brom will be frustrating on the day. But I think the point was probably a fair result, to be honest, for them. But I think they'll be too strong for Derby, to be honest. I'm going to go 3-1 to West Brom. Right up, St Andrews. It is Birmingham City versus Fulham. We've already spoke about Fulham losing to Blackpool, but Birmingham, on the other hand, a very good 2-0 win. Lee Bowyer is doing a very, very good job.
Yeah, I think it's probably the first season in 3 or 4 where Birmingham aren't being talked about for chaos off the pitch. They're not being talked about as relegation contenders or drifting down the league. They just look comfortable. And it's exactly what Birmingham need. Just a solid season where they don't have to worry. They've obviously still got this weird debacle going on with their ground and not been able to open part of it for safety reasons, which is setting them back a bit of money. But they played pretty well against Derby. Fulham, a very different proposition. And Marco Silva, we both had our doubts at the start of the year. This, after the Blackpool game, is where he has to get the reaction. And Fulham have to come out firing, So I'm going to go for Fulham to bounce back. Birmingham will be better on the road, despite that Derby game at home. I think Fulham will bounce back and score goals. I'm going to go for 3-1 to Fulham. Again, just a little bit of a hunch on this one. I'm ignoring a lot of stats this week.
The thing is, the Championship, you have to ignore stats. Even though they're so blatantly obvious, the results go the opposite way. No, I'm going to go for Fulham to win as well. I think you're actually 100% right, where they have to bounce back. See if they're actually good enough to bounce back. Obviously, it was all sunshine and roses to opening five games, but this is a big setback, really. It'd be a bigger setback if they do lose this game. But I think that Fulham will have enough, to be honest. Mitrovic should hopefully be back scoring goals. Wilson, they've got the quality there. It's just on the day, they just had a poor game. So I'm going to go for them to win 2-1. All right, Ashton Gate, Bristol City versus Luton Town. We spoke a little bit about Blackburn. We don't really want to go about Bristol City because they drew 0-0, so there's nothing really to talk about. Obviously, all the drama was at either part with Luton Town. It looked like it was going to be a miserable day, all what's happened, but they got the point at the end.
Yeah, there was, apprehension when the lineup came out, and you saw that from the training pictures they'd posted on Friday about half the team being back fit, and then the other half managed to get injured, ill, or whatever before the Saturday fixture. But there's always a character at Luton. You never get more than one poor performance. And players like Luke Berry returning, Sonny Bradley came on as well as skipper. That's going to be a crucial thing too. It does make a difference. And the dressing room is one that you will often get good performances out of. Bristol City at the moment, I know we get a few things in the comments, and they have produced some very good away performances or results this year. But Bristol City at home under Nigel Pearson, you mentioned it before this Preston game. There's something not right, whether it's fans not on side because of the situation at the club, whether it's just a lack of attacking talent, or what Luton suffered from a couple of years ago, which they haven't really, bar possibly Vyman and a couple of the youngsters that don't often play, got a huge amount of pace through the core of their team. So I'm going to back Luton to win, and I don't do it very often on here because I don't like being accused of being biased. But
well, you are wearing the shirt right now.
I am wearing the shirt this time. I'm very sorry. I'm going to go for Luton to nick it. I'm going to go 2-1 because I don't think Luton will keep a clean sheet. They've not been as good defensively this year, but Bristol City haven't got enough for me. 2-1 and Nigel Pearson under pressure.
I'm going to stick with the 1-0 to Luton away from home. I don't see Bristol City having enough quality going forward, as you said. Luton, I think if Bradley, it looked a bit more organised when Bradley came back in. Look, obviously, Naismith going back into left back, Burke coming back. Obviously, you've got Lockyer coming back, and then Bree on the right hand side. So defensively, and Sluga in goal made some good saves in that second half. It looks, the base looks solid now. It's just obviously people going forward, losing Campbell, probably going to be out for a while. Obviously, we wish Campbell a speedy recovery because that was an absolute shocker for tackle. Luckily, he didn't get his leg broken. You've got the experience of Cameron Jerome up top, and obviously you see the equaliser for Berry. Just experience key there, because if Adebayo did that, he would have gone straight for goal. That's the difference between Jerome and Adebayo. But I think Luton will win this 1-0. It depends on who's fit, really. Obviously, going forward. Right, up next, it is Coventry City versus Cardiff. We're literally recording straight after the Cardiff game, who beat Forest 2-1. Coventry, since they've returned to the stadium, 3 wins in a row. This is becoming a fortress.
Brilliant at home. One of only 2 sides, along with Stoke, who have got 3 wins out of 3 at home. And Stoke's ground synonymous with that. Maybe Coventry can do the same. And the good thing with home momentum for a side like Coventry now is it will gradually start to fill up again. And I know there's been a lot with the board behind the scenes, a lot of boycotts, a lot of protests over the years. But if they can get that winning feeling back and become formidable at home, we saw with Barnsley last year, you only need to have a 3 or 4 month run to really push into the playoffs in an open championship. Cardiff obviously got a good win. They look so much better on the road this season. Kiefer Moore, I would imagine, will start this game now. He's back. He's getting fitter. I think Cardiff might be the ones to spoil the party because they play very direct. It's something Coventry, yes, did face in Middlesbrough, but Middlesbrough weren't playing particularly well. Do I go for a draw or win? No, Championship favourite scoreline, but this game is going to be so close. I think it's the hardest to pick a midweek.
Yeah, I think it is the hardest. Obviously, Coventry are very good at home. Cardiff didn't play well, particularly first half, made the changes, and the Ruben Caldwell, 2 goals. Yeah. Incredible stuff, really. It's stuff of dreams for a young lad like him. And Cardiff, to be fair, in the second half, Cardiff looked the better team, kept it solid, especially when they had that lead. Could have got a couple more, to be honest. It wasn't really a 2-1 game. It could have been 3 or 4. More hit the post, and obviously Samba made some saves. It's going to be a tough game for them. Coventry are bouncing high, especially at home. You've gone 1-1. I'm going to go 2-2, actually. I'm going to go 2-2. I think this will be probably Wednesday's game of the day. I think this will be a really good game, so I'm going to go Cardiff to draw 2 at Coventry. Up next is a team that Cardiff beat on Sunday afternoon's game. It is Nottingham Forest at home again to a Middlesbrough. Chris Hughton, no wins in 6, 1 point. It's not looking good because once they went 2-1 down to Cardiff, it all went flat.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long for fans to either stay away or start the game with apprehension. And when we're at that stage, there's probably not a lot of hope. And again, in the league this season, I haven't scored more than 1 in any game. It's a common problem. I finally thought there was going to be lift-off because Lewis Grabban got a goal, but I don't know. What happened to him from a striker that could not stop scoring to this? Lyle Taylor can't really find a goal. It's bizarre. It's such an odd situation. And I don't see any other ending, unfortunately, than Chris Hughton losing his job. And who knows, we're recording this immediately after Sunday. We could have a manager special between now and this one coming out even. Who knows? Middlesbrough haven't had a great start either, though. Not won a game on the road yet. Struggled to a draw at Derby. Lost convincingly at Coventry. I mean, even got battered at Blackpool in the Carabao Cup on the road. I'm a little concerned. I will say on a side note to the football completely, brilliant to see Sol Bamba back playing football, starting a game. Probably about the only good news for Middlesbrough this weekend, though. So I think it will be a close game. 2 sides lacking in a bit of confidence, but Neil Warnock will surely fancy his chances in this one. I'm going for one of the classic 1-0 Neil Warnock wins.
We've said this, I think, for the last 30, 40 match days, that what's going why can't they score? Especially the attacking line they have. I don't get it. I really don't. And I'm going to keep repeating until Forest actually win a game. I don't see it win this game either, to be honest. I think Neil Warnock will definitely want to get something because it hasn't been particularly good lately. So I think they'll win this game 2-1. Right, next up, it is Stoke City versus Barnsley. Stoke City just doing what Stoke City does. Not many shots. Got the lucky own goal and they got the 3 points.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that Stoke Huddersfield wasn't a great game, but is that not the hallmark of a side that can go on a run for the top 6 when you play like that and manage to get the victory still? Barnsley, really poor against Bournemouth. I'm starting to worry. Look, I got a little bit of stick when I thought that Barnsley might struggle this year because Marcus Schopp, I'm less convinced about than the other managers that have come in. Looking at the CV, looking at the style of play that he had at his previous side, it was a concern for me from the get-go. They've lost key players. They've lost key backroom staff, which I still think is undervalued. And this now becomes a crucial game for Barnsley. They've won 1 in 6 so far. They are sliding towards the bottom and are lucky that a few teams have had a really poor start. I think Stoke are going to win again. And I'm going to say that I think Marcus Schopp will be quite an early casualty this year. I said that I think they'll really struggle under him. I think it will happen again. I'm going to go for 2-0 to Stoke, but I hope I'm wrong because I want to see Barnsley stay up.
I don't expect much in this game, to be honest. And that's not being negative from both sides. I just think, obviously, Stoke had a bit more possession. Michael O'Neill said they had to be patient, and they got their rewards for being patient. I think it's going to be the same again for this game as well. Not many goals. I'm just going to go for the odd goal. I'm going to go 1-0 to Stoke. And the final game, It's Swansea City versus Millwall. Swansea, a 0-0 draw, another blank for them. Millwall, a 1-1 draw for them as well. Do you see it being another draw, or do you think, well, I don't know. What do you see from this game?
Well, I guess the one positive to come out of this is that Swansea were much better defensively against Hull. Millwall, fantastic performance and result. It's whether they can back it up. But they are starting to come into a little good run. And we saw Millwall last season. They played in patches. They were good for 6 or 7 games, then were poorer for 6 or 7. My biggest concern for this game, we know the way Millwall like to play. Swansea, very young defence. I know they've still got Ryan Bennett in there, and they've still got Jake Bidwell, but it's generally quite a young defence. A couple of lone players, a couple of shorter fullbacks. I just worry about how they deal with the direct threat, to be honest. So against my better judgment, I'm going to go for Millwall to nick this one. Swansea have had a massive overhaul. Russell Martin's going to need time. He didn't get pre-season. He came in a few days before the season. It's a very tough position to be in. Millwall are going to win by 2-1 or 0. 2-1 because Millwall haven't kept a clean sheet in ages.
I think Millwall will bully Swansea, to be honest. I'm a bit concerned on how they will deal with the aerial threat that Millwall has. I don't see much in this game. I'm going to go 1-0 to Millwall as my final pick. And let's have a quick recap on what we just predicted for Match Day 7 and Midweek Edition. It is quite tight, to be honest. We predict there'll be loads of goals in midweek when we normally previously we'll have not many goals in midweek, but we think there's going to be goals galore in all 12 games. And those are our predictions for Match Day 7. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down there. And while you're down there, give us your predictions for this midweek edition. While you're also down there, give this video a like, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter @HonestFootball3. And we'll see you next time.